Hello, 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 and welcome to the Nurse Shark Academy show. I'm Tina Baxter, and I'm your host. This is a nursing news you can use at 5 with the Nurse Shark Academy and Baxter Professional Services. Thank you to all of you that are watching on our Facebook Live show on our Facebook page with Baxter Professional Services, and those that are watching on our Nurse Shark Academy show. And maybe you're joining us from YouTube. So I'm excited to be here today. Just a quick update. Last week we didn't have a show as my husband is recuperating from surgery in the hospital. So I appreciate and thank you all for your prayers and support in the past week. And so let's go ahead and get into it. Today is June the 21st, 2023. And I'm excited about today and what we have coming to you for the news. So let's go ahead and get started with our affirmations for today. And give me 1 second here. All right. Okay. Here is our affirmation for today. Number 1, I've never met a strong person with an easy past. I've never met a strong person with an easy past. That is from Atticus. Our next inspirational quote for today. Rock bottom became the solid foundation on which I built my life. Rock bottom became the solid foundation on which I built my life. That's J.K. Rowling. And then lastly, it does not matter how slowly you go as long as you don't stop. It doesn't matter how slowly you go as long as you do not stop. And that is from Confucius. So those are our inspirational quotes for today and our affirmations. And so let's go ahead and get into our next segment, which is what I am reading. And this came from the book Blessed Life by Kim Fields. And I happened to pick up her book in one of the stores. I think it was Ollie's. And I got to reading it. And if you've been on our blog, you've certainly seen me quote part of it. So I just wanted to review some of the things because what she said was so profound. So this is when she's going on to Dancing with the Stars after she's had a long career in show business. And she says, the show's cameras were at home with me in Atlanta when there was a knock on the front door. I opened it, and there stood Sasha Farber, a smile on his face and a bouquet of flowers in his hands. I liked him immediately and even more as we got to know each other. Born in Russia, he grew up in Australia and was a top competitive dancer starting in his early teens. We had that in common. Both of us had worked since we were kids, and we were still doing what we loved. We discovered other shared traits. We were driven, goal oriented, and hard workers. We laughed easily. Our birthdays were 3 days apart. I admitted to being nervous. I wasn't a dancer. Sasha explained that dance was about overcoming obstacles. Moments later, we moved the living room furniture to the side, and Sasha began working with me on basic combinations. He introduced me to the cha cha. It seemed a little quick, but he said, "You can do this." And there, dressed in my knotted I Love Lucy style work shirt and leggings, I was channeling Lucy auditioning for Ricky at his club, and Chuck Taylor's, I said, "Yes, I can." I wasn't a dancer, but I had no doubt that I would become one. I say that because I was just the power of going for it and just putting yourself out there in a situation that may be uncomfortable, something you may not be ready for. I just found that fascinating. And so I wrote in our blog post, The Power of Passion. And it was that passion that she brought to whatever she was doing. I just found it fascinating. And so it's a good read if you want to pick up her book, Blessed Life by Kim Fields, the actress, dancer extraordinaire. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the news. Uh, I apologize. Just as I was getting ready to get into the news, my Adobe decided they didn't want it to update. So give me 1 second. Of course, it always happens when you're getting ready to do a story. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so our first story up. 1,800 Providence nurses on strike in Portland and Seaside. This is coming from OPB News. At 5 a.m. Monday, more than 1,300 nurses from Providence Portland Medical Center have gone on strike. Another several hundred nurses from Providence Seaside on the Oregon coast and a home health and hospice unit run by Providence Health System joined them at 7 a.m. Some nurses were asked to leave the Portland Hospital at 4:30 a.m., according to the Nurses Union Twitter account. Just after 7 a.m., about 100 nurses stood in front of the hospital holding signs and cheering in response to supportive honks from morning commuters. Maternity nurse Erin Anderson held a Taylor Swift-inspired sign that said, "Providence, now we've got bad blood." And it says nurses on the picket line Monday complained that the hospital had put profits ahead of both its patients and its staff. They told OPB they have to work with subpar equipment and that they don't have enough sick leave and aren't fairly paid. This is a refrain that we've heard across the country and indeed across the world from nurses. Nurses on the picket line said that they were worried Providence was willing to, quote, crush nurses to prove that strikes aren't effective at improving working conditions and wages. Providence spokesperson Gary Walker confirmed that the email that was sent by Lori Green, Providence Portland's chief nursing officer, was accurate. The email states, "We were very clear in our communications to ONA," that is the bargaining unit, "that our economic proposals following a work stoppage will be very different and not as lucrative as the package they walked away from." So this has become a stalemate between the union and the organizations of who's going to blink first. So we'll see what happens with this. So here's another news. This is one that I was going to report for last week. This is from McKnight's Long-Term Care News, and this is talking about Advent Health becomes the latest health system to exit skilled nursing. Advent Health, a health system with more than 80,000 employees in at least 8 states, has sold much of its skilled nursing portfolio to 2 new organizations. Advent Health had 10 facilities, 8 in Florida, 1 in each Kansas and Texas. Over the last month, California-based CareTrust announced acquisition of 2 of those nursing homes. But Advent Health confirmed Tuesday that it's exiting the skilled nursing sector altogether. Company said in an email the significant growth, investment, and scale required to operate skilled nursing facilities in a competitive environment, combined with our relatively small footprint of these facilities, led us to explore other ownership models. Becker's Hospital Review reported that the Florida facilities have been sold to New Jersey-based Imperial Healthcare Group, with 6 of the lot going for a combined $103.2 million. Prices for the final 2 properties have not yet been disclosed. So this is interesting because, as we're seeing, there's a lot of agencies, particularly the smaller ones, that are closing and selling because of the big regulatory things that are happening, the scrutiny that they're getting, the fact that the profit margin has been low in these facilities. So there's a lot of factors that are going into this. So this is yet another company that is leaving long-term care. Okay. So let's move on to this story. This is a story about a nurse, and I think we've talked about this before, but this is out of the state of Iowa, coming from the KIMT.com, and it says, nurse who tied elderly patient into wheelchair keeps her license. And so just an update to that story that we talked about earlier. And so it says a nursing home caregiver who admitted to tying a resident into a wheelchair with a bed sheet and who was also convicted of child endangerment can continue to practice nursing, state regulators have ruled. So that goes back to the nurse at Atlantic specialty care nursing home who tied an elderly female resident of the home into a wheelchair using a bedsheet. Now, I will have to say again, years ago, we actually would do that because it was ordered not into the wheelchair, but also into the bed, because that was the only way that this particular person was able to use the bathroom. And it was a dignity issue, something that she requested because she couldn't control her legs. We also had another lady that used a mobile scooter, and we would use the gait belts and put them on her legs so her legs wouldn't flop out, so she had mobility and was able to use her scooter. But those are very different from someone who is tying someone down for convenience. And that's not okay. So this is another article. We were talking about crime in nursing and other things. I found this interesting, and this is an article coming out of Pennsylvania. It says retired detective discusses similarities between cases of Pennsylvania nursing home caregiver charged with homicides and serial killer Charles Cullen. So, as investigators are digging into the past of a Western Pennsylvania nursing home worker who's now facing 2 counts of homicide and 1 count of attempted murder. One retired detective says aspects of that case are ominously similar to that of Charles Cullen, the nurse known for terrorizing eastern Pennsylvania and western New Jersey. According to the article, it says it wasn't illness or age. Investigators said it was Heather Presty, who killed 2 patients and tried to wipe out another at a Butler County nursing home. According to Attorney General Michelle Henry of Pennsylvania, instead of caring for them, she intentionally and maliciously injected them with insulin to kill them. This case is particularly disturbing to Tim Braun, who is now retired in South Carolina. He's one of the detectives credited with getting the Lehigh Valley's most notorious serial killer, Charles Cullen, behind bars. The nurse admitted to murdering 29 patients and is suspected of killing hundreds of others in both Pennsylvania and New Jersey. It's all featured in a documentary and a film on Netflix. Braun, who continues to consult law enforcement agencies in similar cases, pieced through Presty's criminal complaint. He says it's filled with red flags. Cullen worked at 11 facilities in 16 years. An affidavit shows Presty worked at 11 within 4.5, all in Western Pennsylvania. Investigators say again and again she was disciplined for abusive behavior, then resigned or was fired. According to Braun, I strongly believe there are more victims, and I do believe other people around her suspected or knew what she may have been up to, and that all that needs to be explored further. The Attorney General's office is now investigating, so it has said it cannot do an interview just of yet, according to the reports. Documents show it was the victims' families that brought the case to police's attention. Braun says all too often workplaces stay silent in fear of it damaging its reputations. And that is why I brought this up, because that is getting to be a problem and a refrain, shoving things under the radar because you don't want the bad press. And then now something like this happens, and yes, there's going to be bad press, and even more because now you're going to be looked at, you were trying to hide something. So according to Braun, he says he's doing his part to protect vulnerable victims by planning presentations to teach law enforcement and healthcare nursing home workers what to look for. The goal is to prevent criminal caregivers from killing. So we'll see how that works out. But yeah, quite interesting in the story. We'll see how it plays out. Again, this person is considered innocent until proven guilty. So we will follow this case and see what's happening. So in another nursing home case, this is coming out of Iowa again. So it says fired nurse and aide sue Iowa nursing home operator. This is what I find interesting. So it's a company that manages a Dallas County nursing home is being sued by 2 former caregivers who allege they were wrongly accused of falsifying patient records and financially exploiting a resident. The two lawsuits involve Raleigh Memorial Masonic Home in Perry and the Ed Kinney Company that was hired by Raleigh to manage its operations, continuing healthcare services. The first of the two cases alleges that Inge, Inge, Inga Smothers, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, I apologize. Ms. Smothers had worked for the Perry Nursing Home for 15 years as a nurse's aide, medication aide, and phlebotomist before being forced to resign in 2018. According to Smothers, the home had launched an investigation into allegations of conflict of interest and the financial exploitation of a resident. Smothers alleged that she had worked for the resident in question for 5 to 6 years and that her employment with the man predated his admission to the home. So as you can see that there was some questions there. In her lawsuit against Raleigh, she alleged that even after the Iowa Department of Inspection and Appeals concluded there had been no financial exploitation, she remained on indefinite suspension at the home and eventually quit. She sued the care facility, claiming that she had been the victim of discrimination based on her age. She is in her 60s at the time of her suspension, and of her German heritage. In April, after the lawsuit was dismissed by a judge who ruled that there was little or no evidence to support such claims, Smothers sued Continuum for interfering with her employment by Raleigh. Continuum's insurer West Bend Mutual Insurance recently filed a petition in federal court seeking a declaratory ruling that says the company is not obligated to fund a defense to Smothers' lawsuit since its policy with Continuum covers only bodily injury or property damage. The court has yet to rule on that issue. So again, you see that there are some factors at play here. She had a previous according to her, had a previous relationship with this person, returned to his employ, I guess, after he left the nursing home. Not sure exactly all the details there. They decided that she was going against policy. They suspended her even after she was cleared. They didn't take her back. And so those are some of those issues that are here. So it says that earlier this year, Kayla Jean Riceberg sued Continuum in state court, alleging that the company had interfered with her employment by Raleigh. Riceberg alleges she began working at the home in 1989 as a registered nurse and planned care coordinator. Her lawsuit alleges that shortly after Continuum began providing management services at Raleigh, one of the company's managers asked her to review and sign resident care plans. After doing so, she alleges she was immediately fired and escorted from the facility for allegedly falsifying medical records. Riceberg alleges that during her 28 years of service at Raleigh, she had never been subjected to any form of discipline for misconduct. Continuum has not yet filed a response to the lawsuits brought by Smothers and Riceberg, but has filed motions to have the cases dismissed on legal grounds. Rulings on those motions have yet to be issued by the court. So again, this is the issue of the nurse was asked by one of the company managers to review and sign resident care plans. And then now they're saying that she was falsifying medical records. So there's got to be more to this story. So I want to keep an eye on this because it affects our practice and what we're doing. We want to keep an eye on these things that can really impact us. Is this real scary when you think about you're wanting to do the right thing and then yet you're maybe get into trouble. And I'm not saying whether the nurse was guilty or not because I don't know all the facts of the case, but this will be interesting to watch because as one place goes, these things tend to trickle down to other places. All right. So speaking of the Supreme Court and legal cases, this is a story that we've been following. And now that we've had the Supreme Court ruling in favor of nursing home patients' rights, I think that is awesome. This is from Axios. Says how nursing homes could face more patient lawsuits. Okay. So it says justices ruled 7-2 on Thursday that nursing home residents can bring civil rights actions against providers over alleged abuses. The case, Health and Hospital Court versus Tavaletsky took up whether tens of millions of people in safety net programs can go to court if their rights are threatened. It was brought by the wife of a dementia patient who was transferred from an Indiana nursing home after his condition rapidly deteriorated. The family claimed that his treatment, including the use of psychotropic drugs, led to his decline and violated the minimum standards of care facilities must follow to be in Medicaid. The court's conservative supermajority disagreed with the long-standing arguments that health providers or individuals shouldn't be able to sue over Medicaid coverage decisions. That case came at a particularly fraught time after justices struck down the federal right to abortion and touched off a national debate about health equity and the law. The Centers for Medicaid and Medicaid Services can move to bring providers who violate Medicaid rules into compliance through steps including withholding federal funds. The faster option is to go to court and get immediate relief. While Medicaid law doesn't authorize beneficiaries to do that, a civil a civil case can be sought. So the majority of justices agreed in this case that Medicaid law may be enforced through Section 1983. So basically what they're saying, we believe, as did the federal government, that Congress never intended to subject government-run facilities exclusively to additional legal claims for violating Medicare and Medicaid requirements of participation. The ruling could create a chilling effect on the industry, who Rebecca Brommel, a partner at Dorsey and Whitney, who works with nursing homes. There's a possibility that more providers, potentially those coming into the market, will do a risk analysis of whether or not they want to take Medicaid and Medicare or to be private pay only. And so again, these are things that we need to watch and see what's happening. So according to this, it says in Indiana, where the vast majority of nursing homes are state-owned, the ruling will affect medical malpractice law. Randy Furnow, a partner at Qualls and Brady, who wrote an amicus brief for nursing facilities at the Seventh Circuit. Now that the court has spoken, Indiana providers will have to pay close attention to the insurance market and double down on efforts to limit liability associated with nursing home care. So we'll see what happens with this case as it further, unfolds. Because this is what brings up this other issue here. As we see this comes out, now we have this one. Let me get to this story here. Yes. And this one is on how nursing staffing problems cause racial health disparities in nursing homes. This is an article that came out. This is from Patient Engagement. This article. And it says nursing homes serving mostly Black patients employ fewer registered nurses than facilities serving mostly white patients, a staffing issue that researchers from New York University said could be driving racial health disparities in nursing home settings. Overall, nursing homes with mostly Black patients have fewer RNs and certified nursing assistants on staff compared to mostly white nursing homes, but they did staff more licensed practical nurses who tend to go through less extensive training and mostly handle direct patient care. Researchers indicated that these staffing differences could be behind some of the differences in clinical outcomes between mostly white and mostly Black nursing homes. As it stands, nursing homes serving a mostly Black patient population typically have higher emergency department visit rates as well as higher hospitalizations rather than facilities treating a mostly white patient population. In an assessment of 14,121 nursing homes using 2019 data sets, the researchers corroborated that evidence. The higher the proportion of Black patients served in the nursing home, the higher the emergency department visit and hospitalization rates. And that trend was complemented by differences in staffing makeup. Nursing homes serving mostly Black patients have 50% lower RN and CNA hours per patient day than facilities treating mostly white residents. In contrast, mostly Black nursing homes had higher ratios of LPNs. So, according to the data, it says a lower use of RNs have generally been associated with increased emergency department visits and hospitalizations of nursing home residents. It is likely that the relatively scarcity of skilled workers largely drove the differences in hospitalizations and emergency department visits in nursing homes with greater proportions of Black residents. So here's the question that I have, because I'm imagining, and I don't know, and I would like to get a hold of this study. Is it partially also because of the lack of resources? A lot of the if there are more African Americans in that place, Black residents, my question is, where is their funding coming from? Is it strictly mostly Medicaid? That means you're going to have less dollars there. The other thing is, I wonder, is what is the racial makeup of the nurses that are working in the facilities? And how much are you paying the nurses that are working in the facilities? And is this something that directly correlates to the quality of care that they're giving because they don't have enough staff? So there are several questions to be asked about this, but I want you to take a look at this article. And so you can get to the press release that they have. I'll be happy to post it in the comments should anybody wish to look at that article, because I really would like to delve into that a little bit more to find out what's going on. Okay, so let's move on to this case here. This is a case of a nurse that was, again, we're talking about the safety issues with nurses. This is from nurse.org. And it says, nurse stabbed in the neck at a Haywood hospital. Patient charged with attempted murder. On Monday, July 12th, this is, of course, last year, a nurse at Haywood Hospital in Massachusetts was cut in the neck by a patient. She was transported to UMass Memorial Hospital in Worcester. David Nichols, 76, from Greenville, New Hampshire, was arrested after allegedly stabbing his nurse while receiving care in the emergency room for his chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. According to reports, Nichols had removed his oxygen and monitoring devices, and the nurse was attacked when she tried to replace the oxygen. At the arraignment, prosecutors stated that the nurse was cut in the neck near the carotid artery, but the artery was not cut. So very fortunate for this nurse. Nichols was charged with assault and battery with a deadly weapon and attempting to commit a crime. A non-guilty plea was entered. An individual spoke to NBC 10 Boston on Nichols' behalf, stating that Nichols has chronic obstructive pulmonary disease and lung cancer and is on hospice care, having been told he has 6 months to live. Okay. Prosecutors told the court that Nichols grabbed the nurse's neck and used a pocket knife to cut her. He was restrained by security in the ER and handcuffed to the bed. Nichols was given a court-appointed lawyer and appeared at the arraignment from a hospital bed. According to his representative, Nichols is currently bedbound after having 5 surgeries on his lungs and the need for oxygen. Currently, Nichols is being held on a $100,000 bail with house arrest and no contact with the alleged victim. The next court date is set for July 14th. The name of the nurse has not been released at this time. So, first of all, I want to say kudos to them for pursuing this case. I've long said that violence against healthcare workers needs to stop. Needs to stop. So I'm glad that this case is going forward. Now, this gentleman is very ill and very sick, but nowhere in there did you say that he so far had any type of dementia, any type of mental illness. I think he was just mad. I don't know. But anyway, so I'm glad that they're moving forward with this. So again, the violence against healthcare workers, we need to bring more awareness to this. Because then you get cases like this. Nursing staff member recovering after being attacked at Gardner Hospital. The Gardner Police Department said its officers were called to the incident at Henry Haywood Memorial Hospital around 8 p.m. Arriving articles, David Nichols of Greenville, New Hampshire, at the scene where a staff member was taken to UMass in Worcester to be treated for a laceration. So this is again on the story, but I wanted to give you some more information that's come up. Interesting enough, I see this in the story from the news, and it says he's being held in custody on a cash bail following his arrest and is facing assault and battery with a dangerous weapon. So I wanted to bring you that a little bit more information on that particular story. All right. Let's get to some happier news. This is coming out of Massachusetts. Let me know what y'all think about this. This is coming from Best Colleges, and it says Massachusetts may, have not, but may make nursing school free at community colleges. Massachusetts Governor Maureen Healey proposed a free community college plan in March as part of her budget proposal. The Massachusetts Senate approved an expanded plan that would include nursing students enrolled in community college. The Senate's budget proposal now goes to the State House of Representatives. So the Massachusetts State Senate approved a budget proposal on May 25th that would set aside $20 million to make nursing programs at community colleges free for those who don't already have a college degree. This proposal does not include any restrictions on age and says that the scholarship applies to students from the Commonwealth. The measure now goes to the Massachusetts House of Representatives, where its prospects are uncertain. The proposal builds on the budget by Governor Maura Healey, and she put in forth in early 2023. Her budget seeks to make community college free for Massachusetts residents 25 and older through a program dubbed Mass Reconnect. The Senate's budget package earmarked $20 million for Mass Reconnect. In addition to $20 million it set aside for nursing education specifically, it designates another $15 million for capacity building efforts so that the schools may accommodate the free college proposal. The Senate's budget now faces a reconciliation process in the House, whereby lawmakers negotiate separate packages into a single set of approved proposals. Once both chambers agree on an identical budget, it will head to Healey's desk for her to sign or veto. According to the article, Democrats, who have historically been more receptive to funding such measures than their Republican counterparts, control the state Senate, House, and governor's office. So I have to say, I think that's a great idea if we want to bring in more nurses into the fold. And what better way to do that than to offer that path to free tuition? With, I'm hoping, the stipulation that they have to remain in the state and pay, or the Commonwealth, and pay back their dues for at least a couple years. But I think that's great and wonderful, and maybe something that Indiana might consider doing. All right, so for our nurse making a difference, this is from Oncology News, and it says Abby Kaler, nurse practitioner, wins the Cures 2023 Extraordinary Healer Award. Cure Media Group recognized Abby Kaler as the winner of its 2023 Extraordinary Healer Award, which honors oncology nurses who dedicate their lives to making a difference in the lives of patients and their loved ones. Kaler says, "It's the thing I learned is that it's my connection with our patients runs very deeply. It's so much more than I ever imagined it could be. I'm so thankful for the opportunity to love and care for our patients every single day." The Extraordinary Healer Award event, sponsored by Janssen Oncology and Insight, took place on April 26 as a hybrid celebration held in conjunction with the 48th Annual Oncology Nursing Society Congress in San Antonio, Texas. So congratulations again to Abby Kaler. All right, that ends our news segment. We want to get done a little bit early today. And I want to thank you for watching and being a part. Now, I have big announcement. It's coming. Yes, Baxter Professional Services Health Education will be starting a CNA training program. So I just wanted to announce that. So we're working on getting that started with our new CNA training program. We're also going to be adding in QMA at a later date, but I'm very excited. So be on the lookout for that announcement. That is one. Our second announcement, we are going to launch and write our second ebook. Our second ebook is going to focus on those things that you wish you knew when you started out as a new nurse or new nurse practitioner. So things that you may need to help you navigate your career. So we'll be working on our second ebook, and hopefully we'll be getting that out to you in the very near future. And then also another book that we are on to complete the first draft by the end of this month. That is my challenge, my personal challenge to myself. That will be a leadership book where we're going to start talking about being a leader and taking your own path. And here's my point. It doesn't matter where you start as long as you start, right? And so you maybe one person starts farther along than the other, but that's okay. It's your journey to take. And so we'll be having that information coming up too as well. We also have a few things like a will workshop coming up and all these great things for you as well. And I look forward to seeing you again. Don't forget to follow us on YouTube and subscribe. And also, you can follow us on here on Facebook as well. Don't forget to go to our podcast, the Nurse Shark Academy Show, and follow and subscribe there and download. And if you please go to Apple Podcasts and leave us a review or send us a comment on our Podbean app. We'd love to have them. Thank you again for being here. And thanks to all of you nurses out there that are doing it every day. I want to thank personally the nurses that are taking care of my husband right now and all the doctors and the medical staff. They have been wonderful. And I want to say thank you. All right. Bye-bye for now.